ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रथायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो मुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। So last week we commenced our study of the first three verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. We discussed that these three verses act as an auspicious invocation. Srila Vyasadeva, in order to remove obstacles on the path of presenting Srimad Bhagavatam, and with the intent of establishing meditation on that supreme absolute truth, has composed text number 1. And in order to glorify the Srimad Bhagavatam, to establish it as being the greatest of all of the scriptures, and to establish that it is composed entirely of sweetness, he has written texts number 2 and 3. So today, last week, we went through an overview of text number 1. We discussed that each of these verses can be understood at different levels of depth. And we covered conceptually the foundational message that Srila Vyasadeva wanted to present in 111. Today, we will revise that meaning for 111 that we discussed last week, and we will go a little deeper to unearth what Srila Vyasadeva wants to convey in text number 1. We will also cover the meanings of texts 2 and 3. And we will start to go through Srila Prabhupada's purports across these three verses. It may be that we complete our study of Srila Prabhupada's purports for these three verses, not this lesson, but in the next lesson. So, before we start, would anyone like to give a brief summary of what they remember from last class? Any points? It just could be one point here or another point there. Anything that anybody remembers?
Satyam Param Dhimahi, absolute truth.
Okay, Satyam Param Dhimahi. So what was some of the points that we discussed in talking about that phrase?
Krishna, the supreme absolute truth is everything. It is the base for the existence of that current material world.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a Satyam. Param is like unlimited qualities. And to that Supreme Lord, Dhimahi, we are paying the obeisances. And this is also interpreting the first Vedanta Sutra, Hatato Brahma Jignasa.
Thank you. That's a nice summary. So we spoke of the fact that among all of the phrases that Srila Vyasadeva could have used to designate the absolute truth, he has used the phrase Satyam. And this is because the idea being presented is that there can be nothing in existence independent of Krishna, that he is the truth, for which reason every other truth exists. We had the picture of fire with sparks on the side. We can say we have been burnt by the spark. We can say we're being warmed by heat. We can say that we are seeing things by light. But each of these terms, heat, light, or sparks, have no meaning independently. You have to say, by the light of that fire, I can see. By the heat of that fire, I feel warm. By the sparks of the fire, my skin was burnt. By the atmosphere created by the fire, there is a feeling of companionship, and I can experience warmth or camaraderie. So this, so when speaking of the attributes of the fire, they can never be spoken of in isolation, but they always have to be spoken of in relationship to the fire. So similarly, when we say, uh, uh, let me offer obeisances onto a demigod like Lord Shiva, we're not actually offering obeisances to Lord Shiva. We are fundamentally offering obeisances onto Krishna himself, whose potency of auspiciousness, whose potency of destruction is manifest as this entity called Shiva. Similarly, the verses that are recited in the Vedic scriptures to glorify different deities, like those who've grown up in Indian culture, they would recite this verse, Vakratunda Mahakaya, or certain verses to glorify Saraswati at the beginning of education. One should know for certain that these prayers are actually glorifying Krishna, represented by or qualified by his potency as remover of obstacles, or as the grantor of eloquent speech, or assimilation of what one is studying. It is also for this reason that when we say we are offering obeisances to another Vaishnava, we are actually offering obeisances to Paramatma in their heart, or anybody we're offering obeisance to. When we're offering respects to that person, we're actually offering respects to Krishna within their heart. And it is the central philosophical message of Srimad Bhagavatam that there is nothing in existence, there is no word, no name, no attribute which is not Krishna, because it represents a part of his potency. And so whatever we refer to, whatever we do, we are actually referring only to Krishna himself. And it is for this reason that you have certain statements in the Vedas that people may be familiar with. Sarvam kalav idam Brahma, that everything is Brahma. Or neha na nasti kinchana, that apart from this there is no other existence. Or Sadeva Somyam Idamagra Asid, before all of existence there was only the Supreme Lord, and from him everything else has come about. To establish this foundational truth of everything only in connection with Krishna, the absolute truth is termed Satyam. And as Pundarik Prabhu pointed out, the phrase Param includes somebody who is unequaled in their essential nature, who is filled with unlimited, ever increasing transcendental attributes that have no comparison in this world, uh, and who is eternally devoid of any connection with matter. The word Dhimahi indicates uh, worship of the Supreme Lord. Does Dhimahi indicate singular, or plural? Is it plural in its connotation, or is it singular in connotation?
It's plural, Prabhu.
So when Dhimahi is plural, what does it indicate?
unlimited qualities of absolute truth.
Not quite, because by plural, we mean many or under different circumstances.
So not
Right.
any time, but all time.
In all time, all places, all circumstances.
Not
There's
just
never a time. Sorry?
not one person, but everybody together should worship Lord Krishna.
Correct. That's the other meaning. So dhimahi can be applied in the plural to oneself. It can also be applied as a plural to the group. For oneself, it is not just a one-time thing, or it's not just a part of the day. It is the thing that we do morning, afternoon, evening, under all circumstances, under every situation or condition of life. And similarly, it includes everyone. In speaking, for example, if there's a speaker speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, when he's speaking about Krishna, he's inviting everyone to collectively come and glorify Krishna together. That is the meaning indicated by the phrase Dhimahi. And we discussed that the phrase Satyam Param Dhimahi is like a refrain that runs throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let us all together, under all time, places, and circumstances, glorify that supreme absolute truth, Sri Bhagavan himself. So the fact that Param is there, it does not indicate a partial representation of the Lord. It indicates that personality of Godhead, not Paramatma or Brahman, but that personality of Godhead who's exceedingly great in his essential nature and unlimited in his attributes. Thank you, Prabhu. That's a very good point. So we linked it to the second offense of chanting Krishna's names. And I think what we said was that because every name in this world connected to the phrase Satyam, it indicates Krishna alone. Therefore, it is part of the second offense to consider anything to be separate from him. When somebody chants the name of Shiva or Ganesh, to think that this power of the name is derived independently of Krishna is foolish. We quoted Madhvacharya, who said that ultimately all of these names are actually Krishna's names. And according to the particular service being rendered by this deity, this name is offered to them. And so when you're praising a deity, I mean, the jiva occupying that particular position is now a Ganesh or now a Saraswati, and they will move on. So the person who's actually, in a real sense, who the only person who's real there, who's being actually praised, is the Supreme Lord, whose eternal attributes are manifested according to the position of that person. And this is the reason and the importance of the phrase Satyam. Thank you. Anything else that the Vaishnavas remember?
Janmadhyasya.
So,
Janmadhyasya.
what
The
is
Lord Shri Krishna is the origin of all creation. And he is not only the creator of the universe, but the maintainer and destroyer as well. He maintained
yes,
the
he's the main.
cosmic manifestation created by certain period of time by will of the Lord, and he is maintained and he destroyed and annihilated by his will.
So before we go there, Satyam Param Dhimahi, that Krishna is the Satya, he is the truth of all truths, or because of him everything is real. How does the phrase Tejo Vari Mridam Yata Vinimayo, how does this illustrate this point?
Is internal potency and external potency, how it is.
But can you explain that sentence, Tejo Vari Mridam Yata?
So the
Tejo is fire, Vari is water, Mridam is earth. They are about Krishna's external energy. So that's how that connects to Krishna's external energy.
But the point being established here is that Krishna is the actual truth, and nothing separate from him, or everything separate from, or everything else in existence draws its substance because of being dependent upon him. That is the meaning of the phrase Satya. So, how does Tejavari Mridam explain this point?
Is that internal potency negates the Maya, the external one?
No, that's the next line. Matra Gokul Mataji, are you raising your hand?
Yes. Prabhu, it explains that how it is illusion. The material world is illusory. And Tejo Varimrita explains that sometimes in the desert you see the water, but it is illusory. So similarly, this material world is illusory, but because of the touch of the Lord, it's Satyam. So that's how you connected it last night.
Okay, so the example there, you're completely right. So if, for example, you're seeing water in fire, what does the water represent?
It's illusion.
It represents, so when you have fire, there's a shimmering that you sometimes see in the fire. It feels like water vapor or moisture that is present in front of fire. So this moisture is compared to material existence. Now, if you didn't have the substratum of fire, if you didn't have the supporting element of fire, would you see that vapor? You wouldn't. Similarly, when you say land on water, if you don't have water, would you see the mirage of land? Would it have any meaning? No, not really. So here, the fire is real, the water is real. The experience within the mind of the person seeing this is also real. And all they're doing, and the other point is that the impression of land, that is not unreal, but the impression of land on water, that is the part that is unreal. So the idea here is that because Krishna is real, on his support, the material world, even though it is essentially false in the sense that it has independently no meaning or value, by connection with him, it appears to have the semblance of reality. So when we experience joy in the relationships that we have, husband, wife, children, parents, friends, actually we are all disconnected jivas just floating in the river of Maya. And those relationships, those temporary relationships, have no substance or meaning or value. But because Krishna is present and his potency is present in each one of us, you see a small baby, their cuteness comes from Krishna. He's the original child. And so, therefore, the baby who takes on a reflection of Krishna's cuteness draws from us the emotions that are actually meant for Krishna. And that is what is meant by this phrase, Tejo Vari Mridam Yada Vinimayo. And it proves that the actual person who is the source, or who is the object of our actual affection, who is the foundation of reality, is actually Krishna himself. We quoted the verse from Brahma Samhita that Ananda Chinmaya Rasayat Mataya Manasu Yaha Praninam Pratipalan Smaratam Apetya. That Krishna, he expands himself and he enters the heart of every living entity, and so therefore they experience taste in this world, and in this way Krishna conquers over all of existence. So yes, Janmadi Asiyataha, is that phrase, is the intent to meditate upon creation itself directly? Are we supposed to be excited about the details of how creation works for its own right? Understand the structure of the cosmos? Manibhushita Mataji, your hand is raised.
Yes, Prabhu, I got this question because you're saying that
Questions right now. Just let's just focus on the recap. But when we say when we speak about Janmadi Asiyata, is the point of that phrase? Is it meditation upon the act of creation itself? Or what is the intent behind that phrase?
The
Can I try?
Yes, Mataji, please.
I was just thinking, this is Janmadi Asya Yata, it just mirrors the Vedanta Sutra. So it is the absolute. So we need to meditate on the absolute truth from which the creation emanates, and not the creation itself or how it emanates.
Yes.
So
And so when it enjoins, you're completely right. When it enjoins meditation on the absolute truth, what qualities of the absolute truth can one infer from this statement? Rati Mataji, your hand is raised.
You mentioned quality of omniscience, omnipotence, all-knowing capability, all his capabilities.
Yes. So remembering that this entire verse is a meditation on that Param Satyam, on that supreme personality of Godhead, on that absolute truth. Every phrase should be understood to be a direct meditation on Krishna himself. And the phrase Dhimahi can be applied to each aspect of meditation. I meditate upon that supreme absolute truth who is the foundation of all of existence. I meditate upon that supreme absolute truth whose extraordinary qualities of omniscience, omnipresence, whose compassion is the cause for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the three worlds. So the fact that this entire creation is so vast and it's so unlimited, one can only begin to guess at Krishna's own knowledge, at his own potency, at his the incredible ability of his will, without any endeavor on his part, to span all of existence. That is the intention behind this verse. Ujjvala Rasamataji Akanda Rasa Prabhu, I can see a hand raised.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I think you gave the example of the rice grain and the farmer. So we should not be enchanted by the rice grain itself, but the actually farmer, unless the farmer reveals his qualities, it's hard to know about him. But the point is not to get stuck with the details, but try to understand the cause behind everything.
Thank you. Thank you. Anvayad iteratas. What is the meaning of those two phrases?
Directly and indirectly.
Okay, thank you. So what was the meaning behind that directly and indirectly?
Krishna himself expands through his energies in the material world. You gave an example of Rasoham Apsu Konte.
Yes, so if Krishna is the absolute truth, he is everything in existence. Normally a carpenter, he would have, for example, a saw or a piece of wood that is separate from himself, and he's cutting this piece of wood with his saw. But when you speak of Krishna is everything in existence, what is he going to cut with? So Krishna himself expands as this world. He himself maintains himself by himself, and he takes himself into himself. So you have that phrase, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. That Krishna himself is everything in existence. And so he is also the what you call the material cause behind everything. He is the elemental cause behind every other element. He is also the instrumental cause that creates this world. So Anvayad means that he's the material cause of the world. Itaratas means that he is also separate from being the material cause of this world. Cha arteshu. So I see another message here. I explain what? You give examples of good feelings are actually Krishna's qualities. Okay, we'll come to the questions part in a second, but there's a verse that describes Kapiladev's prayers in the third canto. He says that I offer my respectful obeisances unto that absolute truth, whose Maya energy causes even a world-conquering emperor to become the dog of a beautiful woman who can control him by the mere movement of her eyebrows. So even there, when we are saying that, how do I connect negative feelings to Krishna? You connect it in the form of his Maya energy. When you see somebody uncontrollably angry, uncontrollably lusty, greedy, who is just rampaging without control with their emotions. I offer my humble respects to that Supreme Absolute Truth, whose Maya energy is capable of captivating, fooling any living entity in this world, even if that person is Brahma or Shiva himself. That's how you connect with it. The phrase abhigya means he's conscious, because unlike, for example, what modern science might say, or what Sankhya, as an older philosophy, might say, material existence cannot itself be the cause. And so Srila Vyasadeva says that absolute truth, I meditate upon him who is supremely conscious. From that supremely conscious entity, who is filled with unlimited transcendental attributes, he expands himself into this whole material world and grants his qualities of consciousness and other attributes to give everything else its presence, substance, and quality. Swarat, he is completely independent in this process. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye. The intention behind this is that without Krishna revealing himself, it is impossible to know him. That without the Vedas, which are the breathing of that absolute truth, it is impossible to know him. And Muyanti Yat Surya, I meditate upon him who is eternally distinguished even from the liberated souls. So Surya here refers to even entities such as Shesha or Prahalad or the other great devotees who are liberated souls. Even among the liberated souls, Krishna's activities are such that even they are bewildered. Like the Brahma Vimohan Lila, for example, even Lord Balaram, for instance, was not aware that Krishna had expanded himself into all the cowherd boys. Muyanti Yat Surya. So, in establishing meditation on the absolute truth, many of the phrases of this verse also establish the meaning of the first 5 Brahma Sutra verses. So we explained Satyam Param Dhimahi was the purport of Atata Brahma Jigyasa. I won't go into the detail because then it'll become an elaborate explanation. Similarly, Janmadi Asya Yataha is explained by this phrase, Janmadi Asya Yataha, etc. The third Brahma Sutra, which is Shastra Yonitvat, is explained by the phrase Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikave. Shastra Yonitvat means Shastra is the only means by which Krishna can be known. And so the fact that Krishna had inspired Brahma from within his heart, and only through such inspiration could Krishna be known. This is why that particular phrase is the explanation of the third Brahma Sutra. The fourth Brahma Sutra is Tattu Samanvayat. Tattu Samanvayat means that the connecting thread behind all of the Vedic literature, regardless of whether it's the 4 principal Vedas, the including the Upanishads, the Puranas, the Itihasas, the Vedanta Sutra, or any other literature that is part of the Vedic scriptures, the connecting thread throughout all of these scriptures is actually Krishna himself. So, Anvayat Itaratas means that either by direct affirmatory statements, the scriptures will say things like Sarvam Kalav Idam Brahma, everything is Brahman, or Itaratas, statements that show negation, like Neha Nanasti Kinchana, or other, like Cha means all of the other statements. Through all of the reconciliation of all of these statements is actually Krishna himself. So Tattu Samanvayat. The 5th aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra is Ikshatir Na Shabdam, which indicates that the absolute truth is a conscious living entity because of the phrase Ikshana, Tad Aikshata. You may have heard these phrases from Prabhupada's purports. Tad Aikshata, Bahusham Prajayata. So the very phrase that is used throughout the Vedas is through his, under his supervision, by his sight, Tad Aiksha, it implies consciousness. And so therefore, Abhigya is an explanation of that fifth Vedanta Sutra aphorism, Ikshater Anashabdam. So the point being that this verse therefore establishes meditation upon that absolute truth, who is resplendent with every extraordinary quality. His attributes are ever increasing, devoid of any connection with matter, and whose essential nature is unequaled and unexcelled by any in all of existence. That is the primary purport established in this verse. Now, I have a question for the Vaishnavas. In terms of establishing meditation on the absolute truth, the phrase Satyam, can it be applied to Lord Sri Ramachandra? Can it?
Yes.
It can. He is the absolute truth.
Yeah.
Can it be applied to Lord Nrsingadev? It
Yes.
absolutely can. Among the different incarnations of the Lord, Sri Ramachandra, Lord Nrsingadev, and Krishna are called Purnavataras, or forms of the Lord who manifest their potency, the potency of the absolute truth, fully in comparison to other incarnations. Nonetheless, the essential, the original absolute truth, the original personality of Godhead throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam is indicated to be Krishna. Because this, in our very first class or second, leaving aside the first botched class, our first actual class, we established that Sukadeva Goswami's heart was fixed on Krishna's pastimes. And in Vyasadeva Samadhi, which we also discussed, we established that whom Vyasadeva saw as being the original absolute truth was Krishna himself. And so, in a different degree of meaning, this verse indicates four other meanings. I will not go into the details of this. For those who are interested, they may consult Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary. But the phrase Satyam, to the extent that that absolute truth is indicated to be Krishna, the phrase Satyam indicates Krishna himself. So here, to give you an indication, Janma Adi indicates the transcendental dham of Mathura. That Krishna appeared in the transcendental realm of Mathura, Janmadi Asya, Anvayad Itaratas. Anvayad means that he went to Vrindavan, Itaratas, leaving the devotees in Mathura. Arteshu Abhigya, knowing he had Arteshu means he had a specific intent or purpose in mind. He wanted to establish the sweetness of his Vrindavan pastimes. He wanted to go away from Mathura for some time, away from Kamsa. Cha Arteshu Abhigya. So in this way, Krishna is indicated in this particular verse. This verse also indicates, because in our theology, is it Krishna who is the supreme absolute truth? Or is it Krishna as revealed in through the service of the gopis, or Radharani, who is the absolute truth? I can't hear anything, sorry.
What's the distinction? Sorry, the two distinctions in the question?
Is it Krishna alone who is considered the absolute truth? Or is it Krishna and Srimati Radharani together who are considered the absolute truth?
I think both.
Both?
Mm.
Okay.
I'd say
So-
Krishna because Radharani is his expansion.
Okay. Okay. So, you know that verse where we say that previously Radha and Krishna were one, but for the sake of pastimes, they've eternally split into two. Now, in the form of Lord Chaitanya, they've again become one. So, and so I worship that supreme absolute truth. So, what is that verse? Shri Radha Krishna. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Tadhini Shakti Rasmad Ekad Manav Api Bhuvi Pura Deha Bedam Gatautav Chaitanyakyam aduna prakatam tadvayam chaikyamaptam rahada dyuti bhava suvalitam nomi Krishna swarupam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto that supreme absolute truth, Lord Chaitanya, who is Radha and Krishna combined. Formerly, these two were one, but for the sake of pastimes, they've eternally manifested as two. Now again, they've come together onto that absolute truth, who has taken on the mood and the complexion of Srimati Radharani. Offer my respectful obeisances. The Srimad Bhagavatam's highest message is that it is Krishna in the association of Srimati Radharani, who is the absolute truth. This is the highest message of the Srimad Bhagavatam, because in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, the part of the Rasa Leela pastimes where Srimati Radharani leaves the Rasa arena and goes away, there are a sequence of verses where they say, where the gopis are speaking, they say, surely this gopi must have completely satisfied Krishna, which is why Krishna has taken Srimati Radhika, this gopi, they don't specify her name, this gopi, and taken her away alone to enjoy her company. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj says that this sequence of verses, or that section of Srimad Bhagavatam, is the highest pinnacle of Srimad Bhagavatam, because it establishes that Srimati Radharani is the supreme worshipper of Krishna. And it also establishes the highest truth in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, that the best way to please Krishna is to serve Srimati Radharani. It also establishes the truth that Krishna, in the presence of Srimati Radharani, reveals qualities that are unknown or unheard by anybody else. So therefore you have that verse glorifying Lord Chaitanya, Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrisho va Anayeva Asvadyo Yena Adbhuta Madhurima Kidrisho va Madhyam Saukyam Chasyamad Anubhavata Kidrisho Vedi Lobhat Tad Bhavadya Samajani Sachigarbhat Sindhu Harindu. That Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima, to understand the glory of Shri Radhika's love, to understand the happiness that she alone experiences in his presence, and the qualities that she alone can see, Lord Chaitanya appeared in order to taste the nectar of Radharani's love. The idea being that Krishna reveals himself completely and most fully in Srimati Radharani's presence. And this is indicated also in this first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this phrase, Anvayad Itaratas, here indicates through pastimes of meeting, Anvayad, or Itaratas, separation. Cha Arteshav Abhigya, that Krishna is extremely skilled in all the qualities that enhance a relationship with his Ladini Shakti, Srimati Radharani. Swarat indicates Srimati Radharani, who rules over Krishna completely. Janma Adi Asya, the phrase Adi here indicates Adi Rasa, or Madhurya Rasa. So Janma Adi Asya, and from Radha and Krishna alone arise this supreme and extraordinary mellow of devotional service. So I will not go into the further details of the commentary, but the meditation that one should take away is we meditate upon that supreme absolute truth, who is the foundation for all of existence, who is clearly identified as Krishna himself, who is more specifically identified as Krishna, Radha Krishna. Onto that supreme absolute truth, I offer my respectful obeisances. And one should know that this is the centerpiece of the Bhagavatam. The reason this is important is that every other lesson that we learn in Srimad Bhagavatam ultimately moves towards revealing and making us qualified to understand this essential message. Do the Vaishnavas have any questions here, or is the matter clear?
Prabhu, I have this question since previous class. Because you said Krishna is real and any other, like, you gave example of water and fire. When you have that, that, what do you say, like, you have, without fire, you won't be able to see that water in that form. And you're saying that because it's real, Krishna is present in that, So my question is like, because this world is illusion, so how can you relate that to the reality of Krishna, which is present in the, with this?
The idea is that any taste in this world, which is experienced as being real, comes as a reflection of the original taste that is associated with the Lord in the spiritual world. So, for example, when I'm with Janavi, I experience affection, I experience a great taste. But what I should know is that there happens to be a living entity sitting in this particular body who could have been, who was a tree, a pig, and some other whole variety of creatures who, looking at this connection, would find no meaning in it. That there is meaning offered in this relationship is because of the expansion of Krishna's own qualities. There is a feeling of paternal affection. There's a cuteness associated with being a child. Because these qualities come from Krishna, there is because they reflect Krishna's qualities. Therefore, there is a semblance of reality, or there is some experience of reality. But the central message is the actual thing that we are looking for as living entities. We may say, I feel fulfilled when I'm with children, or I feel fulfilled in aiming for a career. But the actual feeling doesn't come from that activity or that relationship directly. We should know it comes from Krishna, whose qualities are present in those relationships. So the actual source of our affection, what we're actually expressing attraction to, is Krishna himself, although we're doing it in the wrong way. It is for this reason that the Gita says that, O Arjuna, those who worship demigods, they worship me alone, although they do so in an incorrect manner. It's the same idea.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you, Matashi. Any other questions?
Prabhu, who was that commentary from again? I forgot the name.
Which commentary?
The one that you just said, where Janmadi is the transcendental realm of Mathura, and Swarat is Radharani who has full control over Krishna. Where is that commentary from?
You can consult Vishwanath Chakravarti.
Vishnu. Thank you, Prabhu.
But the idea, because whenever you see something, it's very common for us to just kind of repeat what is being said without understanding its intention or purpose. So what is far more important when you read something is the question, why does it matter? So for example, you see that phrase Satyam. Now, we discussed last week that Srila Vyasadeva could have used any word, Govinda, or Mukunda, or Janardana, or Jagannatha. I mean, there's so many names that Srila Vyasadeva could have put in. But the essential question when you're reading Shastra is always, why does it matter? What is being said? First, what is being said? Two, why does it matter? Why is this important? That is the foundational question that one should ask. And so when you see our acharyas explain this verse in terms of Krishna himself or Radha and Krishna, the more important question to ask is, why does it matter? Why do they take the trouble to explain it in this way? For them, it is not theoretical. It is not just an exercise in showing their command over the Sanskrit language. For them, they really want to establish the truth that the absolute truth is Krishna, Radha and Krishna. This is what they want to meditate upon when they're themselves chanting this verse, and for those who are qualified to do so. They want to teach everybody that this is the ultimate goal that one should aspire to. Because that's the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's the more important point to take away. Any other questions?
Abhishek Prabhu,
Yes.
where can we get the aphorisms from? Like you mentioned the first 5 Vedic aphorisms. Where can we get it from? Is there a source? I know I've seen lines here and there. When you're reading various purports and throughout the SB, but
An easy source, and I will. You can just message me personally. Also, there's a place called Wisdom Lib. You will see that.
What's it called?
Wisdom Lib on the internet. So there, Ramanuja's, Nimbarkacharya's, and other acharyas, Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentaries are translated and provided there. It'll give you
repeat again.
Wisdom Lib. If you just go into Google and type in Wisdom Lib, and just type in Brahma Sutras by Baladev Vidyabhushan or Brahma Sutras by Ramanuja, you will find the aphorisms there.
Is that LIT or LIN? Litz.
LIB.
LIB, okay. Yeah.
Wisdom Library, Wisdom Lib.
So it's by Ramanuja or?
Baladev Vidyabhushan.
Thank you.
Mayadish Prabhu, I can see your hand is raised.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. My question is, Prabhu, you explained that when we experience positive feelings, like you explained the example of dealing with your daughter, then we understand that this is coming from Krishna, and so we relate it to Krishna in that sense, and not to any other energy, but directly to Krishna. But then when we experience, because we experience both negative and positive feelings and experiences in this world, how do we relate it directly to Krishna, or we just say that it's our karma and that's how it is, and that's why you said Maya is the cause of that?
Relating it to Krishna is relating it to Krishna and his energies. So those two things are not separate from one another. And any perverse effects in this world are connected to Krishna in the form of his energies.
Okay, bro. Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on. We will cover the purports, but let's go on to text number 2. So text number 2 and 3, they establish the supremacy, the superiority of Srimad Bhagavatam over every other transcendental literature. So dharma projita. Now, if you look up Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami, he actually quotes Sridhar Swami's commentary. Charitamrita Projita. If anybody can find the reference, actually, that may be helpful. I will just talk. If somebody finds it, they can just put it on Zoom link. But the phrase pra ujjita, whenever you see the phrase pra before a word in Sanskrit, you can supplant it with prakarshena, which means to an extreme degree. Or similarly, when you say ati bala, bala means strength. Ati bala means ati shayena bala, or to a very, very great degree. So pra ujjita, ujjita literally means to throw away, to discard, to kick out. So pra ujjita means prakarshena ujjita, to particularly kick out, to especially kick out, to completely kick out. So that's how Prabhupada translates it as completely rejected. So dharma should be understood to be any part of dharma which is kaitava, cheating in its essential nature, is kicked out. Now, why is this translated as everything up to and including liberation? The reason is this, that if I'm performing a severe amount of austerity to get something in this world that one is not connected to myself, it has no relationship to me, if it is going to be lost in time, then that instruction is nothing but cheating. Somebody says you work very, very hard and you get something which stays for a small amount of time and then goes away. The instruction to the person to spend so much time and effort to get that substance is a cheating instruction. So therefore, dharma projita kaitavatra. Similarly, if there is something which is disconnected to the essential nature of the living entity, that cuts the nature of the living entity, which here I'm talking about liberation, which does not allow the full potential of the living entity to come into effect, that instruction is cheating in its essential nature. So dharma prakarshena ujita. The word pra indicates even liberation. So ujjita just means anything to do with material gain, but the introduction of the phrase pra means even liberation is kicked out. This is not just impersonal liberation, but it includes the other four kinds of liberation also. So there are verses in the third canto Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto Bhagavatam, where Kapiladev and Krishna both say that Salokya Shashti Samipya Sarupyam something Apyuta Diyamanam na Vindanti Vinamat Sevanam Jana. That my devotees, they reject all five kinds of liberation, even if it is offered to them, where it is offered devoid of service to me. Because for devotees, the dharma, which is the essential nature of the living entity, which is devotional service, that is the only thing that is considered to be of value. So dharma projita kaitavo atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. So the phrase nirmatsara means those who are devoid of envy. And the reason this phrase is used is this: if there's the slightest desire to enjoy in this world, or the slightest desire to be free of pain, which is the essential desire of somebody wanting liberation, there will always be a sense of somebody getting more than we have. Why is this person further ahead? I've also put in an effort. Why have I not achieved the same thing? But only those who have completely given up any desire to attain anything in this world, only they can understand this essential message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So dharma pro jita kaitavo atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu. So the phrase vastu means substance. Vastavam vastu means that substance which is only that substance which has reality. In Hindi, you say, "Jo vastu vastavikta mein vastu hai." It means that substance, that vastavikta, only that substance that has any existence. So vedyam vastavam atra vastu. So by this, what it is meant to say is that there is no topic of superficial discussions. You will never find in Srimad Bhagavatam a discussion of Ayurveda, for example, or a discussion of martial arts. I remember my brother-in-law asked me, if the Vedas have everything, aren't they supposed to teach you how to drive a truck? That was his argument. But Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu. It goes to the heart and describes that substance which is the only thing that is truly existent, upon which everything else is based. So Vastavam Vastu therefore should be connected to which verse, which word of text number 1? Satyam, yes. It is directly connected to the word Satyam. So Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu. So teaching one, giving one knowledge of this essential substance that is the only thing in existence. Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam. the threefold miseries, classified as Adhyatmik, Adibhautik, and Adidaivik, it doesn't just pacify it. It doesn't just, in the sixth canto, there's a question by Parikshit Maharaj. How can somebody who is sinning, how can he be purified? And for those who've read the discussion, Sukadev Goswami says, well, they can do prayaschitta. And Parikshit Maharaj says, well, what is the point of that? Because if they don't remove the inclination to commit sinful activities, the prayaschitta will just mean that after they remove the effects of the sin, they go back and commit the sin again. And then Sukadev Goswami says, well, they can practice cultivation of knowledge, celibacy, austerity, all of these things. And even this answer Sukadev Parikshit Maharaj did not like. And the example given is that when you practice these austerities, it is like burning dry trees to the ground, but then the roots are untouched. It is not pulled up from its roots. But here, when Krishna himself is spoken about, tapatraya unmulana. Mula means root. Unmulana means to pluck out by its very root. What this means is that our fundamental aversion to Krishna is taken out. Our fundamental aversion to Krishna, if you look up that verse, Bhayam Dvitiya Biniveshata Syat, this is Bhayam Dvitiya Biniveshata Syat. This comes in 11th canto, 11 to 37. So this verse says that because of Ishad Apetasya, because of a fundamental aversion towards Krishna, Ishad Apetasya Viparyaya Asmriti. Asmriti means we forget our essential nature, and Viparyaya, we take on an opposite nature. This is the root of our material existence, that for some reason we have some misunderstanding about Krishna, and we have turned our back upon him. And so therefore, we are ignorant of who we truly are, and we've accepted a false identity. This is the beginning or the root of our material existence. The teachings of Srimad Bhagvatam, it removes or clarifies the misunderstanding that we have about Krishna, about that Vastavam Vastu, about that Param Satyam. When we understand that we are not separate from him, when we understand that our actual happiness is to be his servant, and we actually don't need anything more than this. When this understanding is given to us by Srimad Bhagavatam, we turn towards Krishna, and our entire material existence is uprooted at its very source. There is a really wonderful passage that Srila Prabhupada quotes in the Nectar of Devotion, and this is explaining the verse. What is that verse? Tat Paratvena Nirmalam.
Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam.
Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam. So here is the passage. It comes, I think, in the introduction. In the very, I think, second last paragraph. And let me just share my screen if I can. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Srila Rupa Goswami has also quoted a definition from the Narada Pancharatra as follows. One should be free from all material designations, Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam, and by Krishna consciousness must be cleansed of all material contamination, Nirmalam. So this by Krishna consciousness is Tat Paratvena. So being free of all material designations, focused on the absolute truth, must become free of all material contaminations. Rishikesha Rishikena Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. He should be restored to his pure identity, in which he engages his senses in the service of the proprietor of our senses. So that's a translation of the verse. Now here's Prabhupada's explanation, part of his explanation. As long as one identifies himself as belonging to a certain family, a certain society, or a certain person, he is said to be covered with designations. When one is fully aware that he does not belong to any family, society, or country, but is eternally related to Krishna, he then realizes that his energy should be employed not in the interests of so-called family, society, or country, but in the interests of Krishna. This is purity of purpose and the platform of pure devotional service and Krishna consciousness. So the meaning behind this is this, that as long as we have a misunderstanding about who we are in connection with Krishna, devotional service will never feel completely natural. We will always think, okay, I have to go here and I have to do the service, but then I have other things that I need to do. I have a life, I have a career, I have other people I need to be with. I also need to be myself. One always thinks of oneself as being separate or needing some part of our life as being separate from Krishna. And even for devotees in our community, you see this some to a less extent, some to a larger extent. But when we understand that Krishna is Satyasya Satyam, that he is the Satya is the Jiva, but Krishna is the soul of the soul, so to speak, or he is the truth behind our existence. And any form of incompleteness that we feel is only because of a lack of connection with him. Just as when we understand this point, when we understand that Krishna is Param Satyam, when we understand that he is the underlying real substance, Vastavam Vastu, when we understand this, that we cannot be separate from him, we are not separate from him. The moment I say Abhishek, at that point, actually, anything that is said about Abhishek is actually directly, you're directly praising Krishna, or you're directly indicating some potency of Krishna, which has bewildered this fellow. But you are actually speaking only about Krishna. And when this point is understood, then we understand that there's no sense in which I can feel incomplete if I'm connected to Krishna. And then just as for a mother to spend unlimited hours taking care of a child, it doesn't feel like a burden. The mother never says, no, sometimes they do say, but the threshold is very, very high. They can, for hours and hours and hours, clean up their child, can spend time with their children's studies, can talk about their children's life, look at their children's pictures. They don't get bored. But you take another child's pictures, and then within a few seconds, it'll be like, this is nice, okay, I'm done. This is enough for me. But when that essential connection with Krishna is experienced, and we understand that we are Krishna's servant, devotional service becomes the most natural part of who we are. And that's, Prabhupada says, that this correct understanding needs to be in place in order to practice pure devotional service. And this is Srila Prabhupada's explanation of that verse. Sarva upadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena. One needs to be free of all of the designations and completely tat paratvena. I am nothing but a small particle in a ray of light emanating from Krishna. And this is my eternal identity. The only reason I'm incomplete is because I'm not sufficiently connected to Krishna. This conviction makes devotional service one's very natural activity, as if one is breathing. And so therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam says, Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadam Tapatraya Unmulanam. It completely uproots the threefold miseries, and Shivadam, it brings forth the auspiciousness in the form of revealing the jiva's actual identity and revealing that which makes a living entity actually happy. Can one think of another verse that we recite every day after Guru Puja that says the same thing? Anybody?
Sikshastakam verse.
Yes, which line?
Na dhanam na janam na sundaram. Is that?
No. Cheto darpana marjanam. So the cleaning of the heart. Bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam. Shreya Kairava Chandrika. So the auspicious lotus of our good fortune is awakened. So that Shreya Kairava Chandrika can be equated with Shivadam, with auspiciousness that is experienced in the living entity's life. The Shreya Kairava Chandrikam is the awakening of our eternal identity. First, in a generic sense, as being a servant of Krishna, but then more specifically in a particular mode of service. So, Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayan Mulanam. It completely destroys material existence and awakens our auspicious identity. So, in the first two lines, the superiority of Srimad Bhagavatam has been shown over every other literature by saying it is superior to every literature that speaks of material benefit because it promotes a platform of activity that is intrinsic to the soul, that has got nothing to do with matter. And it also says it is superior to every other scripture because there's no other scripture that is capable of destroying material existence completely and awakening our essential nature. There's no scripture that either speaks of prescribed duties or transcendental knowledge or any other activity, any scripture that speaks of any other kind of activity, east or west, any other kind of philosophy that can do this. And so therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is superlatively excellent. The subsequent two lines say, Srimad Bhagavate. A second reason or a third reason is shown for Srimad Bhagavatam's excellence. The phrase Srimad indicates it is completely saturated with every kind of opulence. Bhagavate means that which speaks about Bhagavan, that absolute personality of Godhead. And Srimad Bhagavate, it is filled with the same opulences that Krishna personally possesses. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite. So Mahamuni here is, it refers to Narayan, who took the form of the sage Vedavyas and composed this literature. Kim va parer? It's a question. What is the need of any other literature? What is the need of picking up any other book on any other philosophy or any other subject matter? It will have no value. When there's a literature that directly gives you access to Krishna himself, that teaches you about who you are and helps you be completely fulfilled in and of itself, by itself, what is the need of any other literature? Kim va parer? This particular literature, Ishvaraha Sadhyo Riddhi, implying that other literatures may, over time, gradually make one attuned to Krishna consciousness. But this particular literature, one doesn't even have to have faith. One simply has to have the desire to hear. Simply by having the desire to hear, shushrushabis. There's no mention of faith in this verse at all. But simply having the desire to hear, shushrushabis, then sadhyo riddhi avarudyate. Simply by desiring to hear, Krishna enters the heart. And he's captured there. Avarudyate means that he's captured. What this means is that the desire to hear Srimad Bhagavatam immediately makes one favorable towards Krishna. And by hearing about Srimad Bhagavatam, one proportionately develops affection for Krishna. And Krishna immediately, with all his qualities, with his devotees, with his paraphernalia, enters the heart and takes his seat there. He becomes captured because he is attracted to the devotee's love. Sadhyo riddhi avarudyate atra kritibi. So the phrase kritibi indicates somebody who has piety, because without association of devotees or without having performed some level of unconscious devotional service, the desire to hear does not arise. Therefore, we say Shraddha, then we say Sadhu Sangha. It is by performing some unconscious act of devotional service, one develops a certain respect for hearing from a Vaishnava, and then one begins to hear. So Kritibi here indicates the performance of some even unconscious devotional service that has given one incredibly the desire to hear about Krishna. And when one has this desire to hear, Sadhyoridi Avaruddhite, Krishna is captured in the heart. Tatchanat, at that very instance. What is striking about this verse is that the phrase atra is used 3 times. Can you see where it is found? So, where's the... Sorry?
Kaitavatra is the first one.
Yes. So, atra, meaning here in this Srimad Bhagavatam. So, dharma projita kaitavo atra. What is the importance of saying atra here? Or like here? It's like something like saying, you will get puri and sabji in here, Radha Gopinath Mandir, every day at 9 p.m., for example. You will get it here, meaning you won't get it elsewhere. So dharma projita kaitava atra, here. And then where's the second atra?
Vastav.
Vastavam atra.
Vedyam vastavam atra vastu. So knowledge of Krishna with his energies, his devotees, his devotional service, that is described here, nowhere else, not in such detail, not as its only focus, but it's described here. And the third atra?
Avarudhyate atra.
Kritibi.
Avarudhyate atra kritibi. So here and only here does Krishna quickly become captured in the heart, simply by the desire to hear. So by using the phrase atra 3 times, the importance and primacy of Srimad Bhagavatam is indicated. Here, all cheating religion is kicked out. Here, knowledge of that supreme absolute truth is described. Here, Krishna very quickly enters the heart. That instant enters the heart and nowhere else. That is the indication of this particular verse. Do the Vaishnavas have any questions for this particular verse?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhu, you mentioned earlier that 4 types of liberation are rejected.
Yes.
But the devotees, as long as there is service, they do accept the 4 kinds of liberation in Vaikuntha. So how does it say this?
So here's how it works. In all of the Vedas, what is only spoken of is service to Krishna. Now, this could be through karma kanda activities. It could be through meditation upon him, through jnana or other forms, and also devotional service. So where there is a predominance of karma or jnana, and bhakti takes only a supporting or secondary element, the best one can get is liberation, impersonal liberation. Where bhakti is predominant and there is some trace of karma, jnana, etc. Let's start with karma. If there is some trace of karma, one does not stay in this particular world, but because one still has the desire for certain material activity, material gain, one becomes one of the elevated demigods like Indra or Agni, etc. in Swarga. After which these primary demigods do not fall down. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Shine Punye Martya Lokam Vishanti. This applies to people who, for whom devotional service is a secondary element and their primary focus is karma and jnana. So even though devotional service is there, because they have not understood that devotional service is the main thing, they've committed an offense towards Bhakti Devi. And so therefore the full fruit of Bhakti Devi doesn't manifest. But those who have partial material desire but predominantly practice devotional service, they become one of these primary demigods. And from there they go to Brahmaloka, and from there they enter and get the 4 kinds of liberation. They do not get the 5 primary rasas. Now, if somebody has a predominance of devotional service and has some element of jnana associated in their consciousness, here jnana means that they're devoid of any material desire, but there's a tendency for them um, uh, to see Krishna as being one with everything. There's a tendency for them to meditate upon Krishna in in unity with everything, rather than seeing him as an object of service. So for them, they attain Shantaras. It's only those who practice pure devotional service. Only for them are the relationships of eternal service of Dasya, Vatsalya, Sakya, and Madhurya possible. And so when you say that devotees who accept service, they go to Vaikuntha, the entire Vedic culture only accepts service to Krishna. But according to the intensity of their desire for service, there are different grades of service that are offered. For some, they're offered their primary service as being their Varnashram activities. For some, they predominantly want service, but there are other elements that were there in their consciousness. They go to these 4 other kinds of liberation, and they serve Krishna, but from a distance, not with the same degree of intimacy. But it's those who are very intense in their devotional service, meaning that they completely have nothing else in their life except the desire to serve Krishna, as instructed by their spiritual master. They obtain a direct mood of very intimate service in connection with Krishna and the spiritual world. So, yes, devotees who serve Krishna do go to Vaikuntha, but devotees who really want to serve Krishna and only Krishna, they don't accept that level of distance in their service. They want an extremely, they want intensity in their service. There's a verse that is quoted by Rupa Goswami in Padyavali: to save Krishna from the inconvenience of a drop of perspiration on his feet, Mother Yashoda is prepared to die 1,000,000 deaths. Can you imagine the intensity of the service attitude that Mother Yashoda has? To save Krishna from the discomfort of a single drop of perspiration, she is ready to die 1,000,000 deaths. So that is the intensity of the service mood that is present in the residents of Vrindavan. And so that's why devotees of that consciousness, for them, the level of distance that is present in the 4 kinds of liberation is not suitable.
So basically, it's talking about the highest grade of devotees that is being described here.
Talked about pure devotees.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Because that's the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's unalloyed, pure devotional service. Nothing else. Everything else is thrown out. And therefore it is said, Paramo nirmatsaranam satam. For those whose consciousness is extremely refined. The other explanation given to Parama Nirmatsara is, or Paramahamsa, is just as a swan is able to extract a drop of milk from an ocean, similarly, the great devotees are able to extract Krishna from everything in existence. For them, they appreciate the message of Srimad Bhagavatam because Srimad Bhagavatam speaks only about the essence. It throws away everything else. And they understand, yes, this is it. Others will say, well, when I was a kid, I would read Krishna book and I would say, but then the fighting is not very interesting. I need a little bit more action. I need more description of weapons. So therefore I would go to Mahabharata, where again you hear about Krishna, but then the focus is so much on other things also. But those who are Paramahamsas, they relish the descriptions of Srimad Bhagavatam more than the descriptions of the Battle of Kurukshetra and Mahabharata. Because Srimad Bhagavatam describes a relationship with Krishna, not just the surrounding activities with Krishna somehow present somewhere. So therefore it's appreciated particularly by the Paramahamsas.
Thank you for a wonderful answer, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, here the three modes of material nature, that is tapatraya unmulanam, okay, that is the adidoibik, adivavdik, and adhyatik, and all these things. How we relate that thing? Uprooted means we get some tranquility because of the involvement or because of the purity of the devotional service, okay. It does not affect them, though these things are happening in this material world. So how does it says that it is uprooted?
The experience of material existence is very different for a devotee. Yes, those things can be happening, but what they experience is a direct relationship with Krishna. And I can give you just a very small example. I mean, there are hundreds of examples that one can quote, but imagine there's a devotee who astrologically is going to go through a period where they have no finances, they have no connection with family, their minds are going to be very disturbed, they're not going to have any fixed place of residence. Would you think that this is a miserable status of life? No, it's not miserable.
It is a miserable, yeah, definitely.
But now the same period, apparently, for a devotee, it manifests as there might be a brahmachari. And Mrigank is, I think, posting the same message. I think I've given this example a few times elsewhere. But he might be a brahmachari, and he's maybe serving his spiritual master personally. So he's traveling all over the world. He has no fixed place of residence. He has not a penny to his name. He is completely without any fixed shelter materially. He doesn't know where he's going to eat. He's a beggar. So all of these things astrologically are true. But what is the experience that this devotee has? It is the greatest ecstasy. He would not trade it for anything else in this world. Or you'd look at the experience of Kuresha. In the pastimes of Ramanuja, Kuresha had taken on the garb of Ramanuja and was summoned by the Chola king and was asked to sign a document saying that Lord Shiva was supreme. And Kuresha, he debated and he won the debate against the court scholars. The king was infuriated, and he asked him to sign a verse, Shiva Parataram Nasti, that there's no one superior to Shiva. And then Kuresha had the courage to write above that line, below that line, Shiva Parataram Nasti Tik, but Drona Masti Yataparam, meaning that Shiva and Drona are also names for two different kinds of weights. So Shiva is, yes, it is heavy, Parataram Nasti, there's nothing superior, but even Drona, even the weight Drona is heavier than Shiva. And when he was signing this, he knew he was signing his death warrant. But in his heart of hearts, he was thinking, now by the mercy of my spiritual master, I realize the statement of Yamunacharya, who says that there's nobody more merciful than Krishna. And he has allowed me to experience this mood of being an instrument of his grace and to experience his full mercy. I now understand the value of this statement. And he knew he was signing his death warrant. But the experience of a devotee, even undergoing material tribulations, is very, very different. It's not the same. And so therefore, for a devotee, the experience of the material world is used by Krishna as a trigger to evoke remembrance of him. It is used as a trigger to bring the devotee closer to him in some shape or form. The experience of the devotee is not the same as somebody outside.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Have I answered your question?
Yeah, because they don't consider that is my understand that which normally we consider as the miseries and all these things, okay, for them, there is something greater than that thing, that is the devotional service, which is so, it is nothing as compared to that things. Okay, yeah.
And you know, the Srimad Bhagavatam also, there's one very striking example where this is shown, and this is Vritrasura, because in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the glory of Prema Bhakti is shown by its complete disregard for any material experience. It's also shown through the example of Parikshit, and I'll speak about that in a second. With Vritrasura, previously as Chitraketu, when he was cursed by Mother Parvati, he didn't get angry. He just came down, offered his respects to Mother Parvati, and said, "Please know that what I intended was something different. I didn't mean to offend you. But you've given me this curse, and I will gratefully accept it. Thank you." He offered his respects, got up on his chariot, and left. Now, Lord Shiva turned to Mother Parvati, and he said, "Oh, beautiful one." The implication behind his statement is, you are extremely beautiful from the outside, but he's beautiful from the inside. Because you have cursed him to become a demon, to lose everything that he has. But his experience is just that it doesn't affect him. So therefore, your power is useless. You are the mother of material nature. You have every power at your disposal. You've been unable to move anything in him. And so therefore, he is your superior. That is one place. The other place is Ambarish Maharaj. When Durvasa went to Vaikuntha, he was trembling. He said, "But my dear Lord, isn't it true that Ambarish Maharaj disrespected me, a Brahmana, a Vaishnava?" Krishna said, "I don't know anything. All I can say is this: when I sent my Sudarshan Chakra at you, you ran throughout the whole of material existence. But when you sent the demon towards Ambarish Maharaj, his feet didn't even twitch. They just stayed as they were. He was completely unafraid. And this is the glory of my devotee. You think that you are a Brahmana? You are not. He is the only one here who is worthy of any respect." And you see the same thing with Parikshit Maharaj. When at the end of the 12th chapter of the 10th canto, he said, Sukadev Goswami asked him, "Should I continue? Because you've been hearing for something like 5 days without stopping. Do you want to take a break? Do you want to eat something? Do you want to sleep?" Maharaj Parikshit said no. "If you stop speaking, I will become overwhelmed with fear, with sleep, with hunger, and with thirst. So just keep speaking. As long as you keep speaking, I forget all of material existence, and I just want to keep hearing." This is in fact the description in the 11th canto of the consciousness of the Bhava Bhakta. And so therefore you have the Gita verse in the 4th chapter, Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mam Upashchita Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Puta Mad Bhavam Agata. So the meaning of this verse is, those people who have completely absorbed themselves in hearing about Krishna, Bahavo Jnana Tapasa, in such a manner that Vita, that they've given up, Raga Bhaya Krodha. Raga means attachment, Bhaya means fear, Krodha means anger. These are all the emotions that the mind can experience negatively in dealing with the material world, or positively for that matter. But somebody who is so absorbed in Krishna Katha that material existence doesn't touch them, Puta Mad Bhavam Agata, they attain my nature. So the experience of a devotee is very different by virtue of their absorption in hearing and chanting about Krishna. They see Krishna's presence in their life, in all of existence. Sorry, that's a very long-winded answer to a question.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Prabhu, I have a very basic question.
Yes, Mataji.
So, Vyasadeva, he just says he's emphasizing on rejection of all the other dharmas. And he's saying that before even presenting, so he's saying Vasudev emphasizes the rejection of all other dharmas before even presenting what pure bhakti is. So how does this work in this context? I don't know if I'm making myself clear. So we don't know what pure bhakti actually is, but we are still saying this is the best and everything else is not the best. So why would someone accept this statement?
It's almost like an introductory paragraph. Imagine somebody going out with drums and saying, "The king is great. He is coming." Now, nobody knows who the king is, why he's great, why he's coming, but you're interested. You want to find out. So it's a proclamation, a declaration for what is going to come. And then especially the first 3 chapters will establish this point.
Thank you.
It's also almost like if you have an abstract before a paper, or you have an introductory paragraph, you would say, Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. His pure devotional service alone is that which is of value. Everything else should be thrown out. And love for him is the greatest of all things. So it's a proclamation, the intention being that it's an auspicious invocation for the rest of the thesis that is to follow.
It's almost like putting the cart before the horse. I mean, in today's world,
I would have more said that it is inviting the it is inviting absorption and attraction to hear, and then the subject matter will be explained.
Okay.
That's more raised. NGD, who's that? Sorry.
This is Nanda Gokul, Prabhu.
Another Gokul, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, on the line of Charumataji's question, as you gave an example that if a mother is interested in her own child, like photographs, and she can talk about her own child more and more, but for other kids, she may not. So those who have written other scriptures like Shiva Purana or whatever, and they may say that is great. That has got its all essence, and that is superior. Whereas now Vyasadeva is saying this one. And if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, the bhakti level has to come after Shraddha, isn't it? So first of all, we have to have the faith in Krishna, then we can start on the bhakti level. So how does that transition happen as well? So if you could explain that.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. I'll answer the second question first. The term Shraddha doesn't exactly mean faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shraddha means I respect you enough to listen to you. That's what it means. I may not immediately understand what you're saying. I don't necessarily accept what you're saying, but I accept that you are a sufficient authority and I want to pay attention to what you're saying. So the way Prabhupada translates Shraddha is a mood of respect. Oh, here are some devotees. They are so effulgent. They look so happy. They must be doing something. I don't know what they think. I don't know what they believe, but I'd like to talk to them. I'd like to hear what they say. That's Shraddha, Adav Shraddha. It doesn't mean that before hearing one understands or has faith in the topics that the devotee is going to speak, because then what would be the thing that one learns when one is talking to devotees? Does that answer the second question that you had, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Regarding your first question, there's no other scripture that quite has this introduction, which is founded, and we discussed this in our first class, that is founded on the Gayatri Mantra. That is the next natural commentary on the Brahma Sutras. That is an explanation that directly explains Omkara, that explains the Gayatri Mantra. That is a commentary on the Purusha Shukta, that is a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which are the essential elements of Vedic culture. There's no other scripture that can lay that claim. So the fact that the Srimad Bhagavatam is exclusively focused on the absolute truth is itself its own evidence that it stands unique to everything else. Does that answer your first question, Prabhuji?
Okay, Prabhu, thank you.
Doesn't sound like you're fully convinced, Ben.
No, Prabhu, I'll have to process it. I got a very small processor, so I've tried to absorb and then process it a little slower.
Yeah, the way other scriptures start, and this is the point that was made in that class. See, each of the Puranas are graded. I mean, there has to be some framework to grade scriptures. It's not just he says, she says something, and therefore you accept it. The framework that is offered is that among the Puranas, there are different Puranas in different modes of nature because Brahma in different days of Brahma are predominated by different modes of nature. And according to that time, certain scriptures are revealed. That's the idea. And so therefore, something that is revealed where ignorance predominates, it's not likely to describe the absolute truth, because the mode of ignorance is described as that which covers or which hides reality. It can indicate reality in a distant way, but more often than not, it presents an opposite picture. And with the mode of passion, there's a little bit more revelation, but not completely. It's only in the Sattvic Puranas and scriptures that the absolute truth is revealed, and particularly in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is completely beyond the three modes of nature, is the absolute truth perfectly revealed. But that is the framework by which the different scriptures can be graded or understood. Mayadish, your hand is raised.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, could you dumb it down a little and explain in the current place, time, place, and circumstances how a devotee would react differently to different circumstances? Just for example, like if someone was behaving rudely to you on the way, or a theft had happened, versus a non-devotee, how that would be different.
What I'll do is after the class is finished, I can stay for another 5-10 minutes, and then I can answer that question.
Sure.
I will go and explain the third verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then I can stay on for some time after the class if you would like to stay back, and I'll answer the question then. Okay, so text number 3. So Srila Vyasadeva has described the supreme majesty and the opulence, the greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now in text number 3, its sweetness is described. So the phrase Nigama means Vedic scriptures. Kalpataror means desire tree. This is because the Vedic scriptures, by their very nature, can fulfill every desire of the living entity. If somebody desires a certain level of prosperity in this world, and this point is mentioned in the second canto Bhagavatam, one can worship certain deities, which is actually a perverted way of worshipping Krishna himself, and get certain results. Similarly, if one wants liberation, the Vedic scriptures offer means to liberation. But the natural fruit, so just like a tree, it produces its branches, it produces leaves, flowers, and then it manifests as fruit. This is the natural outcome of the tree. The Srimad Bhagavatam is that natural fruit of the tree. It is the ultimate purpose of the tree. So Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam. And it is not half ripe. It is not in the process of being ripened. It is a fully ripened, ready to eat fruit. The phrase, and this Kalpataror is actually situated in the spiritual world. It is not a material tree. One does not see Kalpavrikshas in the material world. In the spiritual world, it is a fruit manifested, like we say, Golokera Premadana Hari Nama Sankirtana. If I had a better voice, I could sing it better. But Golokera Premadana Hari Nama Sankirtana Ratina Janmilo. So the treasure of love of Krishna, which is present in Goloka Vrindavan, which is the holy names of Krishna, have manifested in this world. So similarly, Nigama Kalpataror, this desired tree of the Vedas, their fully ripened fruit is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this ripened fruit was initially presented by Narayan himself in a short form, in a seed form, to Lord Brahma. And then it manifested a little bit more in discussions with Narada, manifested still more in Narada's instructions to Srila Vyasadeva, who then manifested it fully. And Sukha Mukhad, he's given it to Sukadev Goswami, but this Srimad Bhagavatam, already a fully ripened fruit, which has been handed down very carefully through this parampara. There are many scriptures that have been altered, whose meaning has been lost, whose verses are fragmented, but because it has come in a parampara of devotees who have relished, treasured this meaning of Bhagavatam, they have presented this fruit very, very carefully. And from Sukadev Goswami, again, this fruit has come to us. Sukha Mukhad. Sukadev Goswami was known particularly for his ability to speak about Krishna's pastimes. He was in particular known for his ability to describe Krishna's conjugal pastimes, up to the same level as Srila Rupa Goswami. That is the glorification offered. So when Sukadev Goswami was speaking, I mean, if any devotee speaks Bhagavatam, it becomes particularly relishable. What to speak of, that's the implication of Sukha Mukhad. If Srila Sukadev Goswami himself, the king of all the devotees, was speaking, it was so relishable that even Srila Vyasadeva, Narada, who themselves were revealers of the Bhagavatam, they themselves sat down and heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadev Goswami because they were finding it to be ever fresh and ever new, increasingly relishable, as if they'd never heard it before. Sukha Mukhad, Amrita Drava Samyutam. Amrita Drava here, it's literally a liquid nectar. And so what is indicated here is that Srila Sukadev Goswami has cut open the fruit of Srimad Bhagavatam, and this nectar in a liquefied form is just flowing. It is explained that there are two kinds of hearers of Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who are the great devotees, who are part of Krishna's pastimes. And so when they hear Srimad Bhagavatam, they directly experience the message, they directly experience the purport of the verses because they're living its purport, so to speak. And then there are devotees who are aspiring for this essence. So Sukha Mukhad Amrita Drava Samyutam. Srila Sukadev Goswami has opened this Bhagavatam, and this nectar is flowing. The experience of the great devotees is flowing into the hearts of those who are aspiring to reach the same platform. That is the implication. So what is also meant here is that when one is studying the prayers of Srimad Bhagavatam, one should hear and relish the purport of that devotee's mood of devotion. And in the first canto, we're going to hear about Kunti Devi, Arjuna, Uttara, Bhishma, Bhumi Devi, Parikshit Maharaj. We're going to hear about the mood of devotion of these very exalted Vaishnavas. When we hear their glorification of Krishna and we connect to it with our emotions, it is that Amrita Drava Samyutam, the nectar which Srila Sukadev Goswami had opened, flows directly into our heart. So the idea is that the exalted emotions of those Vaishnavas, we should try and relate to it in our own life, in our own consciousness, and then the flow of nectar is established. That is the meaning of the phrase Amrita Drava Samyitam. Pibata, just drink it. Normally, when you eat a fruit, there is the skin which you have to throw, there is the seed which you have to discard. It means that there are certain undesirable elements here. But pibata means that there's nothing here about the Srimad Bhagavatam which needs to be discarded. It is completely in and of itself drinkable, everything. It is pure, essential rasa, and it can be drunk directly. Pibata Bhagavatam rasam. Just drink this rasa. Alayam. Here, the Srimad Bhagavatam has been described both as phala and rasa. Phala is spoken to say that, like normally, if you hold a liquid, it just kind of falls apart in your hand. The Srimad Bhagavatam can be delivered to somebody. It's not just going to fall apart. It can come in a solid form and be transmitted. But at the same time, it's completely drinkable just because there's nothing that needs to be thrown away. And the intention being that you have here two contrary elements, something that is described as a solid fruit and then something that's described as liquefied nectar. These contrary descriptions are intended to evoke uh, uh, a feeling of awe at the extraordinary nature of Srimad Bhagavatam. Pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam. Alaya means even past the stage of liberation. So one should drink and only drink the Srimad Bhagavatam, whether one wants to be liberated or whether one is liberated. Muhur aho aho. The phrase aho means aho aho. How extraordinary is it that this fruit, which was never supposed to be manifested in this world, which is never supposed to have been in anybody's hands, is now available. How extraordinary this is. Muhur aho, O fortunate souls, O rasikas, O bhavukahas, O those who know how to relish Krishna's mellows, or those who in the association of devotees are so fortunate to be able to learn how to relish the mellows of descriptions of Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Keep drinking it. Don't stop drinking it. Don't go to any other literature. Whether one is tired, whether one is frustrated in life, one just needs shelter. Somehow or the other, find a way just to open Srimad Bhagavatam and read a few pages. Let the Srimad Bhagavatam become our closest companion, friend, and shelter. Let it become our guide, our solace, and our life companion. Keep this alone as the shelter. Muhur aho rasika bhuvi. So Srila Prabhupada's translation, and we'll finish with this. O expert and thoughtful men. So which phrases are those? O expert and thoughtful men.
The last one.
Bhavukaha, yeah. Relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. It's a unique phrase, tasteful. I haven't actually heard, you normally say it's tasty. Prabhupada has such a sweet way of rendering English phrases. Become tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. And translation to text number 2, which we neglected to read. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is the Vedyam Vastavam Vastu, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart, so devoid of any desire for um, uh, hurting others or feeling of sadness at someone else's excellence. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is extremely beautiful in its composition, every single syllable of which is presented with the utmost care, which is completely perfect in its description. That's the implication of the phrase Srimad. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. So I know that we're close to 8:30. If Vaishnavas need to leave, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, I can stay and answer questions for a few minutes. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Next week, we will go through Srila Prabhupada's purports and cover these three verses, and that'll conclude our study of these first three verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we are still planning another 7 sessions, possibly 8, to cover the first 3 chapters of, of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Prabhu.
Can I ask
Thank
a
you, Prabhu.
question?
Thank you,
Please.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
We'll just wait
There
for
are lots of things. It's very hard to grasp everything. So just a quick thing, Prabhuji. You said something regarding generally like fruit has a different part and like something needs to be discarded like skin or seed. But Srimad Bhagavatam is like a fruit that we can fully relish. Is that you said when you were describing the word pibata?
Yes,
Or-
Pibata. Yeah, Pibata Bhagavatam.
Yeah,
So you can take that as a description of Pibata or Rasam. It's just purely rasa.
Oh, okay.
Like when you're drinking, what is that? What is it that we drink during Balram Jayanti? Varuni.
Yeah.
You can just drink it.
Yeah.
Directly. There's nothing to be discarded there.
And just another one as well. So you were saying like whatever happens in life, you can just open Srimad Bhagavatam and take shelter in there.
Yes.
Was that in relation to Muhur Aho Rasika?
Yes. Kimba Parer. Also, like what is the need of any other scripture? And Muhur Ahorasika. Just keep opening and reading Srimad Bhagavatam. There's nothing else that really has any ultimately there's nothing else that really has any value. One can measure one's level of advancement in Krishna consciousness by the taste that one has for Srimad Bhagavatam and the shelter that one finds in Srimad Bhagavatam. Not just intellectually. See, the great devotees, you see them constantly chanting the verses of Bhagavatam. So they will pick up a chapter or a section of prayers. It could be, for example, Sukadev Goswami's invocatory prayers in the second canto, or Bhishmadev's prayers, or Kunti Devi's prayers, and they would just relish chanting those verses with its meaning. They would meditate upon this meaning throughout the day. So the Srimad Bhagavatam doesn't necessarily mean that we necessarily sit down and read it as an intellectual exercise. But once we understand the meaning of the verses, it becomes a companion. So when you are getting ready in the morning, or when you're cooking in the kitchen, there's some verse that'll just come that strikes you, that becomes the foundation for your mood. It inspires the mood with which you're doing that service. Or there's a verse that'll come to the forefront when you're chanting Krishna's names or doing some of the service. So Srimad Bhagavatam has to become that essential companion and guide for our life. That is the instruction. And even if one has read a particular section, often it's because the Srimad Bhagavatam is experienced at different levels. Initially, it's a question of philosophical conviction or intellectual understanding of what the text is saying. But then the next level is to see the difference between where we are and what we would like to be, and in the association with the instructions, because the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam comes through in the form of the instructions and the prayers of the great devotees in Srimad Bhagavatam. So when one captures that essence and one remembers that mood as it connects to one's own mood. For example, if one is in a particular situation, one may connect to the prayers of Queen Kunti, or to Prahlad Maharaj, or to Bhishma Dev. There's a particular connection that you find. And so therefore, you understand the mood of these exalted devotees according to one's own consciousness. And then the Srimad Bhagavatam really enters one's heart and becomes a foundation and shelter for our life. I see for myself that sometimes when I'm very tired, I may just want to flick through messages or read this and read that. Rather than that, the conscious habit needs to be, can I read Srimad Bhagavatam? Can I chant verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam? Can I hear verses chanted, or can I hear the Srimad Bhagavatam? That has to be the conscious switch in shelter that one has to make.
This is very nice, Prabhuji. It's something like we have a feeling like when we study, I mean, even just when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, just as a respect to the Bhagavatam, like we need to be attentive. So we try to probably like have a particular, place and to study it nicely. But is it okay, like as you were saying, like instead of scrolling through Facebook or something, like when you are tired and you can just open in a relaxed mood and then just read something, like, is that okay? Like it wouldn't like diminish, like, I mean, it wouldn't be disrespectful or anything like that.
Can I show you some verses by Sanatana Goswami? I really love these verses. Verses praising Srimad Bhagavatam. The Sanskrit is not here, but the English is here. You can find the Sanskrit in a second. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen?
No, Prabhuji.
You can't?
No, we can't. Yes, we can now.
Okay, now, yes.
Can you read these verses, Anjali Mataji?
Krishna Lila Stava verse 412 to 416. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churn, form the ocean of all the Vedic scriptures, O most prominent, transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you who are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you who grant spiritual vision to the people of the world, O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of the Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned among us. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. By reading you, one attains transcendental bliss, for your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are an incarnation of Lord Krishna. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my friend, O my companion.
My only friend. Oh, my only friend. Mad Eka Sangha, Mad Eka Bandhu. So the phrase is Mad Eka Bandhu. You are my only friend. Keep reading. Oh, please keep reading, Mataji. Are you still there? Hare Krishna.
She seems to have dropped out, Prabhu.
Okay. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter of the very fallen, please do not ever leave me. Please become manifested upon my heart and my throat. Sadarit Kantayaspura, accompanied by pure love of Krishna. So that phrase in particular, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my great good fortune, O my bliss. It's Sanatana Goswami is revealing how much he himself has taken shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. It was his constant companion, constant meditation, constant shelter in the ups and downs of his life. One can only imagine how much shelter Srila Sanatana Goswami felt. Because I sometimes think that when we think of the great devotees, we think of them in very abstract terms. We think of them as being someone very far away, very distant. But they are personalities who walked this earth with us. And sometimes, like, we see our spiritual master. You can imagine Sanatana Goswami walking like that. And just on a day where there's not much to do, you can imagine, just as our spiritual master may just open Srimad Bhagavatam, sit and just relish Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's really the heart. This is how much the great devotees would have also relished Srimad Bhagavatam under all circumstances. And it's a great fortune. I remember there was actually a blog post by His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj. He had been on a tour all over the world, and he was extremely physically tired. So he came in and he got up in the morning. He had no engagements that day. He just got up and chanted his 16 rounds, and then he took up the first volume of the 10th canto. He just opened the very first verse, and he was chanting everything with such great relish, just chanting the verses, chanting the word for word meaning, chanting the translation, praying and praying for each syllable to enter his heart, to purify him, and relishing the Bhaktivedanta purports. But this is the kind of shelter that the great devotees have in Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's the shelter that if we actually want to develop love for Krishna, we need to build throughout our life. We're not going to be able to watch YouTube when we're on our deathbed because we are stressed out with some chemotherapy that I'm receiving. It's not going to work. And that shelter doesn't come automatically at that time either. Mayadish Prabhu?
Oh, if it's too late, we can take it next time as well. Not a problem.
Okay. 8:40, maybe another 3-4 minutes.
Yeah. Prabhu, my question is more around where you said, where it's explained that we should accept everything as Krishna's blessings, or it's coming as Krishna wanted it to be. But then what happens is when some, like, an offense is committed or something that's not supposed to commit, we get into confusions as to should we react or should we accept that as Krishna's blessings. And sometimes it hits our confidence as to am I doing the right thing? And more often than not, we tend not to act because of that. And we just accept even the bad things where we're supposed to actually retaliate sometimes and take assistance. So just try and understand where we have to draw the line. And the second part of that is, I'm sure you'll explain this, but if we retaliate or if we stand up or, we show our confidence, will that then be a hindrance to go back to Godhead in any way?
So your question is answered in that verse 247 in the Bhagavad Gita, Karmanevadhikaraste. So the last line of that verse, Ma karma phala heturbhur mate sanga stva akarmani. So stva karmani negates the non-performance of any duty. How Krishna wants us to respond in a particular situation is learned by understanding what our given prescribed duty is under those circumstances. As a man, or as a husband, or as a wife, or as children, or as a son, as parents, as a student, or whatever our service may be, there are certain duties that are prescribed for that position. So hypothetically, as a husband, if something happens to your wife or to your children, and you need to protect them, the non-performance of your duty to extend protection to them does not reflect casual acceptance. It reflects actually a sinful mentality. But if one understands one's duty under those circumstances, and if not, taking guidance under those circumstances from one's superiors, one acts according to one's duty, and even after that action, one finds that things still happened, then you can take it as Krishna's mercy. But you do your part, and then anything else that happens, that is Krishna's arrangement. So hypothetically, in that situation, if a marriage is about to break, you do your part to maintain that relationship as much as possible within the realm of religious principles. If after that it breaks, it's okay, it's Krishna's desire. Or if and somebody asked this, if I'm just supposed to get my karma, why should I study? It's a common question. If I'm just supposed to get money, why do I have to work? Why do I have to think about investment? It's because the fruits are connected to prescribed duties. We are supposed to do our prescribed duties without expectation of fruit. The fruits come naturally. But the reason they don't come when we don't perform our prescribed duty is because the non-performance of prescribed duty is sinful. And so therefore, it has the impact of distress and no happiness. So does that answer the first part of your question, Mayadish Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, it does.
The second part of your question, is it a hindrance to go back to Godhead? If you're acting according to Krishna's or your superior's instructions in a particular situation, then no, because those duties are given to take us back to Godhead, or to bring us closer to our essential nature. You've been given the service of being a husband or a father or a son or whatever else your service is, because that is your need. If you didn't need to become a husband, you wouldn't have married. So some people say, actually, there was one Mataji who once told me, when she initially came into Krishna consciousness, she was wondering, should I become attached to my children? Because is that Maya? Well, if one was detached, then one need not have had children. But the fact that one is married and one has children means that one is attached. So that attachment is good, because that attachment, by virtue of that attachment, by virtue of wanting to give the best that one has for that child, one becomes the best version of oneself. Since I've had Janavi, I've become far more responsible, far more hardworking, far more conscious of what I'm doing, because I don't want her to develop bad habits or go late to school or be without food. I'm working far harder than I've ever worked in my life. That's a good thing, and that's because of attachment. And it's after one performs one's duty according to prescriptions, then one transcends it. And that's why in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yastva atmaratir eva syat atmatriptascha manava. When one by virtue of performing one's prescribed duties, one has completely satisfied that desire, one transcends that particular inclination. And then at that point, the prescribed duties don't apply anymore, and one can just focus on Krishna consciousness. So as long as you act in a situation according to Krishna's instructions, that will not be a cause for entanglement in the world. And Krishna also instructs in the Bhagavad Gita that every activity is covered with some fault. This is, I think, described in 18th chapter. I don't remember the verse number. If someone can find it, they can post it, maybe 46 or 47. But every action is covered with some fault. So as a merchant, they will lie. As Kshatriyas, they will get blood on their hands, or there's diplomacy involved. There's always some fault to the other. Or as a Brahmana, you have to satisfy others' material desires. But there's always some fault involved. But Krishna says, if one worships Krishna through one's prescribed duties, then one is not bound in this world. That is 3:9. What is that verse? Atul Prabhu, you're on mute, I think, if you're sharing something.
Yagnarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhana.
Yes.
Mukta sanga samachara.
That's why that verse is spoken. Even if there's some fault in one's activity, if one is trying to worship Krishna through one's prescribed duties, that fault is removed and does not have a binding effect. So the idea is that one should be very clear that one's prescribed duties are there because that's our position at the moment. And carefully taking guidance in terms of how I'm supposed to respond in a particular situation, one should act. And honestly, life is so complicated that there's a need for guidance at different times. One's children do strange things. One's spouses do strange things, ask for strange things. One's family behave in strange manners. We ourselves may be pulled in different ways in life, at work or in other places. If we take the mood that I want to be sheltered and through the instructions of superiors, or if our intelligence has already been trained by superiors, we know how to respond in a particular situation. Either way, when we act under instruction, that action actually acts as a means to purify our heart and bring us closer to Krishna and develop very great taste in hearing and chanting about Krishna. I want to just elaborate this a little bit more because in the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, most people kind of see that very, very theoretically. They just call it Nishkama Karma Yoga, and this is some gradual path, and it's just theoretical. But those chapters are actually spoken with the intention that devotees are in the material world, and there's a process to be purified so that one can develop great taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna. That is actually the application of those first 6 chapters. And so most of us are actually in that position. So taking shelter of Krishna's instructions, when we act, it brings us closer to him. Does that answer your second question, Mayadish Prabhu?
It kind of does, Prabhu. The more, a little bit more in this age of coddle and hypocrisy, at least in Australia it's less, but if we go to India, for example, because I've been there for a while, you go out, you deal with anything, there's always someone trying to take advantage. And if you see that you don't like it and then you speak, and it ends up like you are fighting for justice, but then there's injustice being done. So do you accept stuff like that? Or
according to your duty. If it's your service to walk away, you walk away. If it's your service to get involved, you get involved. If it's your service to fight back, you fight back. I mean, there's no situation that Shastra has not covered. All of these situations are present there. It's just a question of getting guidance in terms of how to respond in a particular situation, whether it's one's service or not. So if I go to the temple, there will always be someone quarreling with someone else over something. Do I get involved? Is it my service? If I'm in management, then yeah, it is my service. It's sinful to walk away. But if I'm just a stray person, it's not my service. And I should involve those whose service it is.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all so much for your time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.